The Baseball Together Network presents the North Chicago Baseball Together podcast with your host, Denise. And now, North Chicago Baseball Together.
Hello everyone, this is Denise and welcome to my North Chicago podcast recapping May 2022, covering the Chicago Cubs for our Baseball Together family. As always, I want to remind you of the Baseball Together discount you can take advantage of just for listening to my podcast. We have some merchandise, again, that's always pretty cool. Some of it's general baseball themed, some of it are specific to teams. But for you, there is a discount for all North Chicago merchandise. So North Chicago is what we call kind of the Cubs themed merchandise, since we can't really say Cubs. But if you click on the Baseball Together link in the description of this podcast page, it'll take you directly to our Baseball Together website, and it has all the North Chicago items. Simply click on the item you'd like, choose your size if you need to, add it to your cart. And then before you check out, make sure to enter the discount code of CUBPOD, that is CUBPOD, to save 15%. So you can use this code more than once. And again, that code is CUBPOD. So May has not been overly kind to us. Kind of as I covered last month, I don't expect a lot this year. There are times this team is so much fun to watch, and then other times it's maddening. We went 11-16 for the month of May going into today. Today's the last day of the month. So again, just under average. At this time, we're fourth in the division, 12 games out of first, which the division is still being held by the Milwaukee Brewers. The roster itself has actually had quite a bit of change this month, and we aren't even at the trade deadline yet. And speaking of that deadline, we're going into June. It's looming closer. We're 2 months away, and we still haven't extended Wilson Contreras. And I know I keep harping on this, but seriously, we need to extend this guy. I think if we end up trading him, I'm going to be more angry about this than I was even with any of the four guys, KB, Rizzo, Javi. We got rid of Schwarber, any of those guys that, from last season's trade deadline. Because Wilson, he's already lighting it up this season, and I should know, I've got him as my catcher on my fantasy team. He's hitting .264 with 7 home runs and 16 ribbies. He's got an .873 OPS, but that average just sounds so much lower. He did hit a bit of a slump kind of early to mid-month of May, so that brought it down a little. But in the last week or so, he's hitting well over 300, and he's ranked 6th in the National League in on-base percentage. He continues to wear his emotion on his sleeve every single game, and I'll get to a couple of examples of that a bit more later on. But seriously, I'm going to say it again, they need to extend this guy. So anyways, I mentioned they made quite a few moves already. To name a few that I kind of want to highlight, I'll start with Anderton Simmons. He came back off the IL, which was actually perfect timing because just 3 days prior, Nico Horner had lightly sprained his ankle and had to go on the IL. He's back now. And Simmons has been pretty good on defense, albeit he had one really bad game. But he's currently hitting well below career numbers. We got Clint Frazier back from the IL. Jason Hayward's been on the COVID IL since mid-May. I haven't seen a single update on him. Yan Gomes just went with the left oblique strain, so Wilson's backup is now PJ Higgins, who's, he's pretty decent. Ildemaro Vargas was designated for assignment. He ultimately chose free agency. Nick Madrigal is back. He just got activated today. And then Jonathan Villar went on the IL with one of the strangest injuries I've seriously ever heard. Maybe not ever, but in a while. So apparently he's working out, and I guess he's got those weight-resistant bands, and it snapped while he was working out, while he was using it. But it snapped so badly and hit him so hard in the mouth, he actually has to have dental work done. And I was like, so now he's on the IL. I saw this, before I knew what happened, I saw that he went on the IL with a mouth injury. And I'm like, mouth injury? I don't remember him getting hit, anything. But I'm like, how does, so then I saw the article about what happened, and I'm like, how does that even happen? Like, to have a resistance band hit you that hard where you need dental work, like, I can't even imagine what that felt like. And I had to read the article like twice. I'm like, wait, did that just say a band literally just snapped, and to the point he's got to have dental work done? So he's going to be out for a little bit. And I'm not laughing at the injury. I'm laughing at just the freak nature of that injury. So anyway, so we also called up outfielder Nelson Velasquez from AAA Iowa. He's been pretty impressive. He's hitting 286. He's got a 572 OPS and just about 7 at-bats. And our good friend David Bodie McBoatface, which I like to call him, he's on a rehab assignment in AAA, coming off that separated shoulder injury that he had surgery on last season. So I'm thinking he'll probably be back maybe mid-June. I don't know if he'll be back, tomorrow's June 1st. I don't know if he'll be back right away. But hopefully, he should be back. I'm thinking before the All-Star break, so mid-June, which I think is kind of what they estimated at the beginning of the season. And last month I talked about Seiya Suzuki and the blazing start he had gotten off to. He's cooled off big time. He's down hitting 245. He's been slightly under 200 in his last 7 games. And now, to be fair, he's much like Schwarber, right? Where he's getting called strikes on so many low and outside pitches that really aren't strikes. They're outside the zone. He's not swinging at them. They're called. And I've always said, I've said this to so many people about Kyle Schwarber when he was with the Cubs, and I've seen it with him in Philadelphia and Boston. I even highlighted it last season. To be fair, he had Angel Hernandez, but Kyle Schwarber gets more called strikes that are outside than anyone I've ever seen. Like, every time I watched a game and he was up, and he's a left-handed batter, and there'd be a pitch on the outside corner, and it's not even hitting the corner. I mean, it's outside, and it's getting called, and I don't get it. It just seems like and it was like, but that same pitch for any other lefty wasn't getting called. So I just, I don't understand why it's always, it just seemed to be Schwarber. And I'm not saying that because he's like one of my all-time favorite players. Like I said, I've seen it even on other teams. And the same thing kind of keeps happening with Seiya, where he's just getting he's got such a good eye. And that's why he was hitting so well and getting on base so much at the start of the season, because he wasn't swinging at garbage. And now, the strike zones are, seems to be getting expanded for him. So he's expanding his swing and probably pitching at stuff or swinging at stuff that he wouldn't normally swing at. I don't know if it's the horrid umps we've had this season, because, man, they're getting worse. I follow a Twitter account called Welcome to the Ump Show, and some of the, other games, even just aside from the Cubs games, that you see that these calls are just horrific. So I don't know if it's just, maybe the bad umps again, this year, or the ones that are, their percentages are just lower. But I'm really hoping he can find that groove again. Once he comes back, he's on the IL. He got a left finger sprain. So hopefully, once that heals and he comes back, I kind of hope he gets that swing back, right? But again, I've always argued that, people say, oh, well, it's too close to take. No, if it's outside the zone, it's not like it's clipping the zone, things like that. If it's 2, 3, 4 inches off out of the zone, they should not have to swing. That should not be considered, too close to take, because then you're forcing the batter to expand their zone. Anyways, so hopefully, Seiya can get that swing back when he comes back from that IL. And then, kind of rounding out, another guy that I just love, Frank Schwindel, right? So this is a funny story. So he'd been kind of struggling. Cubs were basically like, all right, Frank, you're going to go down to AAA Iowa. You're going to work on your swing. Frank's like, fine. Didn't even last 24 hours. So Frank supposedly was supposed to go drive to Iowa like later that afternoon or whatever, but he had a flat tire on his car. So he's like, all right, got to go get my tire fixed. I guess I'll leave in the morning. Well, good thing he never left, because literally that next day, Marcus Stroman had to go on the COVID IL. So they're like, Frank, come back, or rather stay here. He didn't even have to come back because he never left. So he ended up staying. And kind of since then, right, they went on like a little win streak. I think they won like 4 in a row. He's brought his average up a bit. He's making better contact. He's hitting some home runs. And him and Patrick Wisdom had gone back-to-back jacks and back-to-back games. And it's the first time on the Cubs that's happened since 1969 when Ernie Banks and Jim Hickman did that same feat. So think about that. All the famous duos that we've had back-to-back in the last, 53 years, right? Nobody's gone back-to-back in back-to-back games. I mean, you got, Sammy Sosa, Moises Alou, Derek Lee, and Aramis Ramirez, even Ernie Banks and Ron Santo, Anthony Rizzo, KB. I mean, you can name a ton of them. And it's Frank the Tank and P. Wizzy that, they're the first ones to do it in 53 years. I don't know if anybody could have, ever predicted that. And so, another fun fact, and like I always say, baseball, it's so fun. But the one guy I really want to talk about, Christopher Morrell. This kid, he is so much fun to watch. He's 22. And back on May 17th, they called him up from AA Tennessee. Not AAA, AA. Came right up from AA. He's best friends with the aforementioned Nelson Velasquez. And he actually told Wilson Contreras he's going to do the same thing that Wilson did in his first at-bat, was hit a home run in his first at-bat of his major league debut. And nobody's done it since. Nobody's done it since Wilson did it. And, oh my God, he did it. It was a 3-2 count. I was watching the game, and the second he hit it, I just screamed because you knew it was gone. He absolutely demolished this thing onto Waveland. I think it went onto Waveland. It looked like it went onto Waveland, but then they showed a guy at the back of the bleachers holding up the ball, almost all the way in the... If you've ever been to Wrigley, right at the back of the bleachers, there's the upper kind of catwalk, and somebody had it. So I don't know if it bounced right back there, but it looked like it went on to Waveland. But I mean, he absolutely crushed it. And like I said, the minute he hit it, you knew it. And I screamed. Everybody at Wrigley just lit up. Contreras came jumping out of the dugout. He's dancing up and down the side. And Morrell even did a nice little bat flip. I mean, it was nothing cocky, but it was amazing. I think I watched the replay 10 times. And then Wilson had him do a curtain call. So this kid, 22 years old, calls up from AA, first at bat in the 8th inning, and he just crushes it, and he gets a curtain call. Like I said, Wrigley was just rocking for this kid. I'm super stoked to see him to continue to play. He's still hitting so well. He's got excellent defense. He's made some amazing catches or stops. He's played 4 different positions at second, third, short, and center. And in 49 at-bats, he's hitting .286. He's got 2 home runs. He's got 5 ribbies. He's got an .855 OPS, and he's got 5 stolen bases. He jumps around on those bases. I mean, every pitcher is watching him. And like I said, he's so much fun to watch. He gets excited with every hit, pumps his fist, shouts, screams, yells. It's things like that just make me so excited for this club in the soon-to-be future. And then again with Contreras, right? I said, he's so enthusiastic for these young players coming up, and he's fully supporting them. You can just visibly see it. And that's why I want him to stay. And then, to add injury to insult, my son, who, previously loved Anthony Rizzo and was heartbroken when they traded him, he has now decided that Wilson Contreras is his new favorite player, probably because Contreras hit a grand slam at a game my son was at. And he's got a Wilson Contreras shirt now. Of course, I have to buy him one. To be fair, I bought my daughter an Ian Happ shirt because she loves Ian Happ now. But got him a Wilson Contreras shirt. But I'm like, oh my gosh, can you just pick a player that isn't up for a potential trade? Because if they don't sign him, he's going to be heartbroken for the 2nd season in a row. And so Cubs, my sanity, right? If anything, for my sanity, I please extend him. Please. Anyways. Okay, so over to our pitching now. Wade Miley's back, which is great since Alec Mills is now on the 60-day IL with a right quad strain. And Miley's doing all right. He's only had 3 starts so far. He's got a 1-0 record, a 3.38 ERA, a 1.19 whip, and 10 strikeouts in 16 innings pitched. Drew Smiley's doing pretty decent. Stroman is seemingly finding his groove now after his ERA was over 7. He's got his ERA down to 3.95. He had a fantastic start over the weekend against the White Sox. I think he only gave up like 3 hits maybe in 7 innings. But ultimately the bullpen lost him. That's where I say it's like maddening. Justin Steele is settling down. And then remember how last month I said they should just make Keegan Thompson a starter, right? Justin Steele isn't going to perform or, whatever. Make Keegan Thompson the starter because he was coming in long relief because our starters couldn't go more than like 3 innings. But Steele's actually settled down, but they actually still made Keegan Thompson a starter. And he's still rocking it out. The biggest disappointment is actually the professor, Kyle Hendricks. I think he's had maybe 2 quality starts. He's got a 5.20 ERA with a 2-5 record. He's got a 1.34 whip in just 53.2 innings pitched across 10 games. That is well over his career numbers. He's flat out getting hit, and he's getting hit hard. In Arizona, I think he gave up like 5 home runs, and it was in like 4 or 5 innings. It was just ridiculous. It was like every time home run, like every inning. And I get some pitchers, they're going to have a really bad day from time to time, but it's like his is the opposite. Like he's only having a good day time to time. He's leaving everything in the middle. He's got just no speed, which I've said this. He's never been a speed guy, right? He's been the movement guy. But he just doesn't have the movement, and it isn't fooling the batters anymore. So I'm hoping, our pitching coach, Tommy Hotovy, can figure it out for him. I'm sure they're continuing to work with him. And if you know Kyle, he's upsetting himself. But I mean, if not, we might be seeing the last of Hendricks, with the Cubs sooner rather than later, which is, kind of depressing because he's still left over, from that World Series team. And then another fun story I'd kind of like to talk about from the pitching side. Brandon Hughes was called up from AAA Iowa the same day that Morrell was called up. And in his debut, which again, like I said, it was the same day that Morrell debuted, but in his debut, he pitched 1 2/3 innings. He struck out five of the 6 batters he faced, which set an MLB record. It made him the first pitcher in modern baseball history to record at least 5 outs and then have them all come via strikeout in his MLB debut. He was actually sent down to AAA like 2 days ago, and then they just recently selected his contract again. But in the 9 innings that he's pitched, he's got a 3.0 ERA, which it sounds higher than it is because it's such a small sample, right? It's only 9 innings. But he's got a 0.67 whip, and he struck out 11 batters in those 9 innings. So again, some exciting things to come from these young guys. It's so fun to watch these kids come up, living their dream, and then just doing so well. You can't help but just smile and cheer for them, right? And then we had Matt Swarmer. He got his contract selected from AAA Iowa right before the day-night doubleheader against the Brewers on Memorial Day, and he made his debut in Game 1 of that doubleheader. And again, he was amazing. He had a quality start. He lasted 6 innings. He gave up just 1 earned run. He struck out 6, only walked 1 batter. And again, that maddening piece, the bullpen lost the game. So ultimately, he got a no decision. So that's about it. I mean, there's just not a lot. Again, some ups and downs. And I feel like it's going to be like that for the rest of this season. Personally, I made it to 3 games. 1 was on my birthday. 1 was on Mother's Day. 1 was on the 22nd. My season ticket rep has upgraded my tickets a few times. Once we went onto the Budweiser patio out in right field. Another one was 4 rows right off the field, right next to the Cubs dugout, and that's because, my kids were with me. My son got Alfonso Rivas' autograph on a ball. He really wanted Wilson Contreras to sign his hat, but unfortunately Wilson didn't come near our section. But the kids had a blast. My son's 2-0 in attendance. I think I'm 2-3. I'm either 2-3 or 2-4. I can't remember. I plan to go to a few games this month, in June as well. So, let's see what this month brings as we move into the summer months. So that's about it. I guess for a recap, I'll go through kind of the standings. Haven't touched on that yet this year. So like I said, in the NL Central, the Brewers are leading. Right now they have a 4-game lead over the Cardinals. The Pirates are in third. They're a game and a half over the Cubs, who are in fourth. And then the Reds are still in last place. The Reds they've improved, right? I think I said they got off to a 3-21 start. It was bad. But they've improved. They're actually 16-31. I mean, they're still 14.5 out. Cubs are 12 out. Pirates are 10.5 out. So, kind of as I predicted, it's going to come down to the Brewers and the Cardinals, I think, for this division. Over in the NL East, the Mets are leading that division by 9.5 over the Braves. So they've got a huge lead right now. The Phillies are in third. They're 11.5 behind. The Marlins are in fourth at 12 games back, and the Nationals are in last, 15 games back. The Nationals are just slightly over the Reds for the worst team in the NL. And then in the NL West, the Dodgers have taken the lead over there for a while. The Padres and the Giants were also kind of flip-flopping. But they have a 3-game lead over the Padres. The Giants are 6.5 back. The Diamondbacks are 10 back, and the Rockies are 11 back. And then over in the American League in the Central, you've got the Twins leading that division by 4.5 games over the White Sox. The White Sox have had a lot of injuries. Eloy Jimenez just hurt himself a couple of games ago against the Cubs, and then Tim Anderson just pulled I think he had a groin strain in the game too against the Cubs. They DFA'd Dallas Keuchel. But yeah, so they're 4.5 behind Minnesota right now. The Guardians are 6.5 back in third. Tigers are 10 back, and then the Royals are 12 back in last place. In the AL East, the Yankees have a 5-game lead over the Tampa Bay Rays. The Blue Jays are right behind the Rays. The Blue Jays and the Rays keep going back and forth, but the Blue Jays are just a half game behind the Rays, 5.5 behind the Yankees in third. The Red Sox are 10.5 back, and the Orioles are 13 back. And then in the AL West, the Astros have a 4-game lead over the Angels. The Rangers are in third at 7 back, and the Mariners are 10.5 back in fourth. And the Oakland Athletics are bringing up the rear over there. They're 12 games back in last place. So, honestly, most of the divisions, the first place team has about maybe a 3 to 5 game lead over the second place team, with the exception of the NL East. Like I said, the Mets have a 9.5 game lead. If we looked at the wild card standings right now, in the NL, the Padres and the Cardinals would be the 2 wild card teams, but the Giants are only a half game behind the Cardinals. And then surprisingly, the Diamondbacks are 4 games back, the Braves are 4.5 back, and the Rockies are 5 games back. Cubs are all the way down 8 games back out of the second wild card spot. And I know it's way too early to look at this, but I still keep track of it as the season goes on. It's kind of fun to watch the positions change as you go along in the season. And then over in the American League, the Rays and the Blue Jays hold the 2 wild card spots. The Angels are only a game back behind the Blue Jays for that second spot. White Sox are 3.5 back. Rangers are 4 back, and the Red Sox are 5 back. So again, still a little bit tight with those wild card races. Anything can still happen. We're just getting into June. But again, it's fun to see, these teams kind of flip-flop everywhere. So that is about it. I think this is one of my shorter podcasts that I've had in a while, but again, there's just not a whole lot to talk about. With the exception, like I said, some of these kids. I keep an eye on Christopher Morrell and Brandon Hughes, Nelson Velasquez. Watch the minor leagues. I saw another thing where it said out of all the minor league teams, if you combine all the minor league teams of the Cubs, or of all MLB, right, all the minor league teams at all the levels, the Cubs actually have, if you combine all their records, the Cubs actually have the best minor league records amongst all their teams. So that's awesome. Start following the minor leagues because you're going to learn these names and you're going to see them come up. And they're going to be so much fun to watch. And I can't wait. I'm excited. I don't know if it's going to happen in 2023. But like Pete Crow Armstrong, right? He's doing fantastic. We're still hearing about, Braylon Marquez. I think he's actually hurt right now. Or it's not Braylon Marquez. I can't remember his name. He's a shortstop and his name is completely slipping my mind, but I think, a couple of the guys are getting hurt, but, still watch the minor leagues, follow them. You've got AAA Iowa, you've got AA, Tennessee Smokies, the Myrtle Beach Pelicans down in Single A. We've got teams and they're fun. They're fun to watch. So if you can't get to Wrigley, look at the minor league teams that are in your area. Minor league games are fun. And if you've got a Cubs one near you, go to one. And remember these guys' names because they're going to be coming up. So anyways, that's my advice for this season. So again, I'll say it again for probably the third time. I'm going to wrap this up. Remember, you can listen to our Baseball Together podcasts wherever you get your casts. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, rate, review, share with your other baseball friends. Remember to click on the Baseball Together link in the description and use that discount code of CubPod to save 15% off of all your North Chicago apparel. As always, feel free to send me any questions, suggestions, etc. And I will see you guys at the end of June. Bye.